Has FPL killed football tribalism? The short answer for me is yes. But before we get into any of that, guys, you can see I'm doing a thing. I'm trying a thing. This is the Kweku Afari YouTube channel. For years, or a couple of years at least, people have been getting onto me, whether it's James Allcott, my boy Jamie Boyce, Ade Oladipo. Kweku, start your own YouTube channel. Do it. Create videos, make content. I've been reluctant, I've been hesitant, but we're finally here. It's going to be no frills, no spills, just me talking down the barrel for 6 to 10 minutes about football. I'd appreciate it if you guys did all that nice stuff and liked, comment, subscribed. We're going to try and build a community here, so I'm definitely keen to hear feedback from you guys in terms of the content that I make, content that you want me to make going forward. So make sure you show your boys some love in the comments below, and we'll get cracking. But yeah, the first video I want to make on the Kweku Afari YouTube channel, I'm a YouTuber now, is about Fantasy Premier League. I've been locked into FPL this year. It's been the thing. It's been the thing that I've made sure I'm doing every single week. And it's because of last season. Last season I had FOMO. It got to week 35 and my boys are talking about making changes and substitutions. And I'm not playing it anymore. I dropped out after week 5 because I just couldn't maintain it. I wasn't into it. And part of the reason why I wasn't into it is because of the dissipation of tribalism. I love football for various reasons. For you who don't know out there, I'm a big Chelsea fan. I love football because it's objective and subjective at the same time. I love football because I love Chelsea. But I also love football because it's tribal. I love football because it evokes emotions inside of you when you're rooting for your team and subsequently rooting against another team that you don't get anywhere else. Football is visceral. It's about rivalries. It's about tribalism. And that's what I take from football. And that's why I love the game so much. But with Fantasy Premier League, a lot of that is taken away. If you think about, if I'm a Chelsea fan and I know that Arsenal are playing against Bournemouth on the weekend, of course I'm going to put Saka in my team because he's going to get me points. But the innate Chelsea fan within me doesn't want to put an Arsenal player in, doesn't want Arsenal to succeed. But if I want to succeed in fantasy, I've got to put opposition players or players that I would normally root against in my team. And for me, that's problematic. Some other people don't think it's that deep. And I get it, it's not that deep. It's football. Football's not that deep. But I put a poll out on Twitter and it was 60-40 in terms of, I asked the question, is FPL killing football tribalism? And only 40% of the people said that it is. 60% of the people either didn't think it does or don't care. And I suppose that's a generational thing in some aspects because I've just turned 30 and football was always about not only your team winning, but you took so much joy from the opposition or the rivals losing. Match of the day was so much more sweet when Chelsea won and Arsenal and Spurs lost. I was tuning in, I was there. 10-20, I was locked in watching it because my team won, which obviously I take the ultimate joy from, but a team that I absolutely hate lost. And I think that you're losing a sense of that with Fantasy Premier League. It's becoming, I don't know, a bit more homogenous football. And it's going that way anyway. I think the Messi and Ronaldo era ushered that in terms of fans are not as tribal when it comes to football teams. They might have their favourite players, but their love for football teams is not as deep as it previously was. And that's absolutely fine. It means that essentially football is less toxic because as much as I love that tribalism and how visceral football is, when people don't toe the line, it bleeds over into racism, into misogyny, into homophobia, which is obviously what we don't want in football. But when people can toe that line and it's a safe space to hate, I love hating on teams in football. Football allows me to be a hater. I don't want Spurs to do well. I don't want Arsenal to do well. I don't want United or even City or Liverpool to do well. But fantasy forces me to root for those teams or root for those individuals because they're in my team and they get me points. And I think that's an issue because, like I say, the lifeblood of football is not only love, it's hate. It's the rivalries, it's the derbies, it's the feeling of angst towards another team. And fantasy makes me root for Bukayo Saka. Fantasy makes me root for Liverpool players. Imagine being a Man United fan playing fantasy over the last few years. Who've the best teams in the country been? They've been Man City, they've been Liverpool, they've been Arsenal. Man City are Manchester United's cross-time rivals. Liverpool are Manchester United's biggest rivals. And I'm not throwing shade here, but most Manchester United fans don't live in Manchester. So for a lot of southern Manchester United fans, their biggest rivals are Arsenal. Those have been the three best teams over the last couple of seasons in the Premier League. And so when you're a Man United fan and you're screaming or you're waxing lyrical about how much you hate City, but then you've got Erling Haaland as captain up front in your fantasy team, or you're a Manchester United fan who's declaring their hate for Liverpool, but you've got Mo Salah in your team and you're hoping he bags the brace to get you more points in fantasy, or you're a Manchester United fan from London who absolutely despises Arsenal, but you've got Bukayo Saka in your team and you're hoping he gets an assist so he can get some points in fantasy, it doesn't sit right to me. I think football should still have that intense passion and intense hatred for teams that are not your teams. And like I say, it's not that deep, just something that came to my mind. But for me, FPL is contributing to killing the tribalism of football. And like I said, tribalism is what drives it for me. To give you guys an anecdote, obviously lifelong Chelsea fan, but as a result of rivalries that built up in the mid noughties, I absolutely hate Liverpool. And I couldn't even gain an appreciation for Steven Gerrard as a player just because I was blinded by hate. I couldn't even admit that Steven Gerrard was a good player. And I kind of regret that as I'm older and I kind of ignored those years. I got to watch Steven Gerrard live in the flesh play in the FA Cup final 2006 against West Ham, and that was the Gerrard game. I couldn't even appreciate that because I was like, nope, Lampard's better. I hate Liverpool. I hate Gerrard. But for me, those were some of my most enjoyable and formative years in football in terms of I love my club. This is my team. It's tribal and I hate the opposition. And so that's where I'm having the problem in fantasy this year. I'm still enjoying it. I'm not doing very well in it. I'm also going to put a link in the description to my fantasy league if anybody wants to join. Obviously, the more, the merrier. We're going to build a community. But yeah, in fantasy football this year, I sat back and thought the other day about my feelings towards it. And I don't like it. I think inherently it goes against what football is. You don't want everybody to do well. One thing I will say about fantasy is because of the £100 million budget you have to build your squad, you can't pick players from all the top clubs. So it does kind of educate fans who are very top six centric to look at other clubs in the league. And for example, if you weren't a fan of the top six club and you aren't regularly watching Match of the Day, you wouldn't know that Bernd Leno's having a very good season until you see his points in fantasy and you see some upside there and you see some marginal gains and you see a reason to pick him in your side. So I think for people who are not fans of the clubs outside the top six, fantasy can be a tool to educate, and it can also be a gateway as well. A lot of people doing well in my fantasy leagues are not football fans. My mate Chris Lloyd, who lives in Norway, who's got a PhD in geology, doesn't watch football, but he's really good at fantasy. He's really good at analysing. He's really good at looking at when the fixtures are coming up and seeing what players represent value in the market and bringing them in early rather than late. And he's a very good fantasy player. So I suppose it does have its upsides in terms of educating the wider world in terms of football. But for me, in terms of the enjoyment that I get out of football and the reason that I watch and love football, it's at odds with my I wouldn't say morality, it's at odds with what I believe football should be. I'm still going to carry on playing it because I want to win my league, but I'm concerned that fantasy is slowly dissipating football tribalism, and tribalism is the lifeblood of football. I'll be keen to hear what you guys think about it. Again, like I said, these videos are going to be my ramblings, my thoughts, my notions on football, both on and off the pitch. Going to be bringing you more videos on a weekly basis, so make sure you keep your eyes peeled for that. Make sure you're liking, commenting, and subscribing. Keen to hear your thoughts on it, and we'll be back with more videos very, very soon.